Welcome to the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. We're going to explore ways to sharpen our diagnostic skills, find learning resources, and hear from experts in the automotive field. Hey, what's going on, automotive world? Welcome to another episode of the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. My name is Sean Tipping. I've got a special guest joining me today on the show, Tomi Oliva. Tomi is a shop owner and mobile diagnostician out of Chicago. Should be familiar with him if you're in this industry. Of course, he's been on the podcast a couple times prior, but today he's going to sit down and talk with me about Vision that we just recently attended, the training event in Kansas City, training in general, and the importance of going to training. What do you get out of it, and why is it worth sacrificing time that you could be making money, and some of the intangibles that we can't really, quantify or measure for what you get out of going to these events and meeting people and talking with people. And actually, this conversation, this podcast episode is a perfect example of that. Getting involved with different groups that I have and going to training events, led me to meet people like Tomi and getting different perspectives and ideas from other people in the industry, I think is crucial to improving yourself and saving this industry. And we are also going to talk about that. Tomi has got a really good perspective on, where the industry is. It's very realistic and what it's going to take for things to change. And one of the things that we discuss, and that, heck, I'm guilty of doing, is not charging enough for what we do and valuing the work that we do in order to charge enough. And whether that be, a shop owner, or in my case, a mobile technician, we really need to look at that and consider what we're doing and what it's worth, because otherwise we're just in a race to the bottom. So we're going to discuss that too. And it's really good advice for anybody out in the field to just take a step back and evaluate what you're bringing to the table and what it's worth and what you should be charging. And, me personally, after this talk, I'm going to go raise my rates, and not just for the sake of raising my rates, or not just for the sake of making more money, but being honest with myself about what I'm providing to my customers. This is huge. I think this is really important for everybody. So check this out. Tomi's a great guy. Always enjoy talking to him. With that all out of the way, let's jump in. What's up, Tomi?
What's happening, my dude?
Not much. St. Patrick's Day. Got your corned beef cabbage?
Nah, man, I'm good. The last St. Patrick's Day, I decided to celebrate. I was like, 10 Irish car bombs in. I never drank Jaeger again.
Don't they dye the river green out there in Chicago,
that's about the
right?
nicest thing they do here, man. It looks really nice.
Because they've always done that, right? They've done that for many, many years.
Oh yeah, especially since there's a big Irish population here, and the last of the generational mayors, which are the Daly family, they're Irish, of Irish descent. So yeah, so that's a huge thing here.
Gotcha.
Even like the clubs, like the Cubs, every single team has a green jersey for St. Patty's Day. Yeah,
they have a big parade down here in St. Paul too. I haven't been to it in a few years. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, they probably haven't had it in a couple of years with Corona. But
yep, same. It came back last year, but the first year, it wasn't. They didn't do it. They didn't do shit here.
Yeah, I'm obviously not celebrating either, but
dude, I'm done. Like, I think the last time I celebrated it, actually, no, I'm lying. I just so happened to be in San Diego for the baseball World Cup tournament type of thing for baseball, and it was like United States versus Puerto Rico,
Okay.
and it was at Petco Park, and we it just so happened that it was St. Patty's Day, and we ended up at the Gas Lamp District and ended up in an Irish bar, and you already know how that went.
Sure. Yeah, I've had some good times in the past, but I think I've outgrown the partying hard in the middle of the week. I'm okay without that now.
Same. There's more productive things I can do with my time than ruin my
Exactly.
health.
Yeah. Speaking of which, how's business? Where are you at now? Because last time I talked to you, I think you were contemplating going more in the mobile direction, but I don't know what you
I
decided
actually
on.
ended up doing that for pretty much all of 21, most of 20, and all of 21. For the most part, I was pretty much just on my own, man.
Okay.
I was just mobile, shop to shop. It was good, but yeah, from our last conversation, I ended up just rethinking my strategy. I had some licensing issues here in the city, and it just made more sense to keep the shop. But it's more. I don't really do retail work too tough. I do a few things here and there.
Hmm.
Um, but I ended up just changing my business model a little bit. So I don't really do mobile diag anymore.
Okay.
Programming and keys only, and if pretty much if it's like a difficult diag, then I just don't do it. I turn them down, or you just take it to the shop, and then I just knock them out there.
Sure.
So that's been and because like you know I began to stock some used modules. So now
Yeah.
I refurbish them and then I sell them, I clone them. A lot of newer stuff, newer model, global A stuff. So
Yeah.
basically a little bit of everything.
You've been doing a bunch of board or bench work on modules
Correct.
and stuff like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's going well. It's going very very busy.
I've got a PCM out of a Dodge Caravan right now that I diagnosed it in the shop, replaced it. I programmed it. I'm like, hey, can I have this? I gave him the whatever. I think it's like $20. That was the core, pretty cheap. And I'm going to see if I can fix it, but I'm still figuring out the whole soldering thing. I'm trying to get this. It's a driver for a transmission solenoid. I was messing around with it last night trying to get it off the board, and I can get the little tiny legs off of there, but
The fat one.
the big one. There's two of them on it, and man, I had that sucker hot last night, and it wouldn't budge. So I got to take another approach to it.
Um, Haku, if that's how it's pronounced, they make these tweezers, these hot tweezers that are really good for those.
Okay, so the tip of the tweezers actually gets heated up. Okay,
Yeah, if it's the driver that I'm thinking of, which I'm pretty sure it is.
I could send you a picture of it, but yeah, I figured I'd give it a shot and see. The modules are cheap, so it's not like it's a big deal, but I kind of like that side of thing. Just it's interesting. I mean, that's why I went and took Pedro and Mike's class because I'm pretty interested in it. But when you can fix something that nobody else can find or they're on back order, you can make some decent profit that way too.
Definitely, man. It's been a blessing, man. I went into it at the same time. This own local junkyard of mine is actually I know the owner and I've known him for years, and I for years I kept telling him, hey, I can help you with your modules or hand out my number, but his bread and butter is engines, transmissions, and body parts, man. He doesn't he to him everything else is just junk. So I
Hmm.
ended up buying his inventory, and now I kind of have like when they basically about to crush a car, I can go out there and pick my modules and I get them for
Nice.
very good price. And then I look over them, make sure they're good, and test them, bench them.
Sure.
So it's good, man. It's been good to me so far.
What's out there right now that's on like super back order that everybody's looking for?
GPEX and basically any Continental based Hyundai controllers, Hyundai Kias,
Okay.
and GPEG 2As, GPEG 3s, and
That's Chrysler Dodge stuff, right?
correct. And
Okay.
then GM has pretty consistent, but there's a couple modules, like especially some of the older E39s they're not made anymore, and E69s there's a 10-month waiting list.
Dang. Okay. Those can be done by IO, both those.
E69, no, E69 they need to be cloned out. It's a Bosch module.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. Well, maybe I'll go scour my local U-Pull-It parts thing, see what they got there.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun knowing that you can resolve something, man, and knowing that, man, some of these countries where, we used to kind of look down on them, they're actually in the forefront of this because they had no choice, man. I mean, just imagine us here where Hyundai, right, like a Sim 2K341, which is pretty much like a module out of like a Veloster or, a Sorrento, I think, if I remember correctly. That module is $1,200 US.
Okay.
So can you imagine, like, if you're in Mexico and you need to buy that module and you can only do a new one, and that module is, times that by 22, I think, 22 pesos to $1.
Jeez.
Yeah, so imagine paying 20 grand for an engine computer. So, yeah, these people have been working with a lot less.
Yeah. Well, I know the people I've spoken to in Australia, they don't even have access to or have the ability to program it if they were to purchase it too. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, these people are
the next few months, I believe.
Oh, they're getting something down there though?
Correct. Yeah, they're working. Okay. There are launches in June, I believe.
Okay. But yeah, I know some of the workarounds have definitely come from other parts of the world, but it sure is handy to have.
Oh yeah. No, it's definitely, you can tell, like, at Vision how things are changing. There was a, Mike and Pedro's class was at Vision, and a few years ago, you probably wouldn't even consider it.
Right.
Because it's not, textbook proper.
Uh-huh.
But what is textbook and proper? I guess nobody ever, what's textbook and proper? You have a car sitting there rotting away until God knows when you're going to get some parts, or you get this thing back on the road.
Exactly. Or if the OE interface barely functions the way it's supposed to, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, there's been pretty much, like, there's a couple of our bread and butter interfaces have now been a complete and entire shit show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, TLC for GMs. Ford's been back and forth. I think I figured out one of Ford's biggest issues. Next time, try this. Don't update from the updater. Update it through Ford itself. What do you mean? Like,
so you know how you have I forget the name of the program, but it's basically like when it pops up and says, IDS or FDRS or FJDS need to be updated.
Yeah.
So I don't update from there.
Oh,
I'll go
okay.
and I'll download it straight from Ford.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know why, but every time I update it from there, I have a problem. I end up having to wipe IDS out. I don't know what it is.
Huh.
So anybody out there having issues, try that.
I will definitely consider that. I've been okay on Ford for a little while. I haven't had, well, actually, no, I shouldn't even say that. There was some server issues, but somebody was saying that might be because of all the stuff that's going on in the world right now with cyber attacks and things like that. So I don't know.
It's pretty interesting how it's going to affect us more and more.
Yeah. Is Forescan still functional? Because that was Russia based, isn't it?
I believe you can. I don't think you can buy licenses right now.
Oh, okay. All right. I haven't used it in
but I think if you have it, it should still work.
Okay. Yeah, that's a handy backup one to have too.
It's a very handy backup one, and now it programs too.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. Speaking of Vision, we were both there. I had a good time. I had an interesting drive home because I was getting on the plane as it was starting to rain, and then it was turning into like sleet and ice. And so we sat out on the tarmac for like 45 minutes on the plane, and they're like, yeah, you got to get off the plane and we're going to try to wait this out. And so we're in the airport for another 45 minutes. And then they're like, yeah, we're shutting down the airport. So, we're not getting you hotels either. So you can sleep here or go figure it out on your own. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go rent a car. And so I rented a car and I just drove home.
Yeah, it's funny because I was gonna fly. And I usually fly Southwest, which is Midway, but man, it really irritates me, man. Midway's such a real pain to get to, and
Hmm.
the waiting, and I don't, I don't hate flying. I just, I was like, you know what, man? Something told me to drive, and then I took some of Pedro's gear too, so it just worked out, and totally, it just worked out. But
Hmm.
on Sunday, I don't know what it was, man. Just something told me to leave, and I literally missed my class, and I just took off. I left like at 9 a.m. And it's an 8 hour drive for me, so it was a beautiful drive.
Yeah.
But my flight was actually going to be around 4:30. Now that I remember, because I still wanted to see my class and make it to the
Uh-huh.
airport on time. So yeah, I would have been
You'd have been
royally screwed. I would have been
stuck in
stuck
the
on the floor.
airport.
Nah, I mean, I would have done the same thing you did, man. I don't mind driving in the snow. So I
Right.
would have just rented a car and just left.
Yeah, it was a 21 Kia Sorento. It's a nice ride. I got no complaints about it. Handled the snow great, and
Man, how much was that one way?
yeah, that was 350 for the one way rental.
Oof, that was probably more than your plane ticket.
It was about, yeah, it was a little bit more, but I got a hold of Delta, and they gave me a flight credit for at least for the way back, so
Okay,
I made
that's
up a
awesome. That
little bit
Delta.
of it.
I mean, it's just a shitty situation, man. I mean, we can't
Hmm.
control the weather.
Yeah, no, that was the thing. I mean, I think it's how I operate with most customer service. Is when I call, I'm just as nice as possible, and it gets results way better than being angry and pissed off at something that they can't do anything about, and it's not the person on the phone's fault anyways.
Yeah, like I've always said, you attract more flies with honey than shit. I mean, you attract more. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I take the same approach. I'm always calm, collected, polite. Hey, I know it's not your fault, blah blah blah. And it's gotten these places. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, you get some frustrating people, but even when you're calling like tech support for some of these programming services, it's the same way. It's just to just be kind and polite and work with them the best you can, and most of the time they'll get you better results than.
Except AT&T, they can all go and play in traffic. I hated AT&T. Oh man, no matter how nice you were, man. Oh, that was bad.
My internet company at my old place is CenturyLink, and they were the same way. That was just the absolute worst. Just it was so difficult to deal with them. I think it was more of how they had it structured than the individuals, but like you were guaranteed you were going to be on the phone for an hour if you needed to call to get anything, and then even then you're not seeing somebody out to your place to fix the internet for 2 weeks, and ugh.
Yeah, you gave me some bad flashbacks. What classes did you take at Vision?
So I took Subaru class, Scott Schotten, enjoyed that a
That's right, we're
lot.
in that same. Yeah, it was a. Yeah, no, that shot in class was legit, man. Like I was starstruck, man. I mean, I was sitting next to Scott Manna and your your Minnesota cousin over there, Fanslow, and yeah, we were. It was wow. It was
Yep,
a really good time. Like it was a great class. The information was top notch. Like, man, I was blown away.
definitely. That one I liked a lot. And then what else did I take? I took Perkins network class,
Nice.
which obviously he always puts on good. He's got great content. Had some live stuff there. I did the key class with you the next day.
Oh, you were.
Matt.
Oh, that's right. You were in maths class, right?
Yep,
I
yep.
forgot about that.
And that was good. I definitely learned some stuff with the Leashy, because we spent quite a bit of time on that.
I learned.
Uh,
I have no interest in leashing on. I've tried it on my own. I have several leashes of the more common and the easier ones to pick, and I just my my whole idea of being a VSP is, yeah, it's fun and it's a cool thing to know, but I don't know. I feel like for me personally, man, that's like the lowest thing on the list of the lowest skill on the things to know when you're a VSP, not a locksmith. If you're a locksmith, then yeah, I mean that's leashing 101 is what you need to know. That's your job. You need to know how to pick a lock. But for us, I don't know. I'm not just me personally, man. I have no business or interest in learning how to rebuild cylinders or picking locks. I think it's a cool thing to know for sure, but it's it's not for me, basically.
Well, I suppose where you're at too, there's probably a lot of locksmiths running around doing that stuff anyways.
And they're so cheap, man. I mean, like the Honda ignition cylinders, like my locksmith will fix it for me for $40 and I just tack it on and I resell it. Like, why am I going to sit here? It's so competitive in Chicago to do anything that's, I don't want to say easy, but that's kind of like the term, like less technical. There you go. Anything that's less technical to do in Chicago, dude, it's just so overrun. Like most of my programming customers, my good programming customers, they're an hour west of me. Because I'm done in the city. I don't have competition because most of there's a lot of guys that do everything for cheap. Okay. Including some programming.
Yeah, that's tough when it's just a race to the bottom.
Yeah, they can have that though. I'm busy enough, man. I do very well. I mean, not very well, but I'm doing much better than I have been.
Awesome. I like to hear that.
What other class did you take?
I was there for Tech Talks, and I was going to do a Saturday morning class, but because I was actually up front talking to everybody, I spent the morning just preparing to make sure I was ready. And the game show that Bryn and Keith and Rich put on, that was outstanding. That was the highlight of the weekend.
I was mad as shit though. I was like, you fucking assholes couldn't even tell me about this shit. Everybody's like, yeah, good job, man. You guys must have planned it. I'm like, nah, I didn't. I didn't even fucking know. Assholes.
Yeah, for everybody listening, they did a version of The Price is Right, but with automotive diagnostic ties, and they had participants come up from the crowd and sit up front, and they had them guess on the cost of scan tools and stuff like that. They had prizes, and they really put it together.
Yeah, great. Just shout out to AES and everybody who donated, Cody, who donated materials and stuff so we can present something like that. We thought it was, it was nice, man.
For sure.
So it was a good vision for me, man. Is I say every year I'm not gonna go, right? Because, and it's not taken away. There's a lot of, just like anything in life, man. There's stuff that you like, stuff that you don't like. I have a serious problem with labeling, man, and I don't particularly feel that it's vision or just in general in our trade, like it's a chicken or the egg. Well, if we label them right, people don't show up, which is true.
You're talking about the names of the classes?
Correct, the labeling of the classroom, the names. Gotcha. Like I feel like some of these classes should be labeled. I sat in a class, I won't say which one, and it should have been a basic introduction to electrical. It should have never said, advanced or whatever you want to call it. And I know that that's the reason why they do it, is because of, history speaks that if it says basic, nobody wants to go because nobody thinks they need basic. I need basic. I can go for a good basic electrical theory class. But, it's just chicken or the egg. Who's going to cave first? Is it us or is it them or sure. Whatever, But, there's also the event, man, and it just the people and talking to everybody, man, it makes it worth it. But then at the same token, it's just like, man, it gets as the years go by, it also makes it a little harder to be able to take the time off, and especially like me, who I'm trying to run a couple businesses, and I'm busy up until I leave, and then I'm hitting the bricks as soon as I get back, and it's just like,
yep.
Was it even worth?
That was the tough part. It was catch up the whole next week when I was back. It was just I'm completely slammed from the time I get up to the time I go to bed, just to catch up on all the stuff that I missed while I was gone. Which, I mean, it is what it is. But that's actually something I was thinking about. Is, I mean, especially if you're a business owner, if you're a technician, maybe not so much because there's other people who do the work. But if you're a business owner, how do you weigh, taking the time out to go to things like this? Like, what's it got to be worth to you to give up that time?
So in general, I'd say that the biggest advantage that you're getting from going and taking and shutting down the shop and going with your employees is the morale boost.
Mm-hmm.
The whole, man, I got that. Oh wow! Hey, look, listen, we now we can apply what we learned. That's worth its weight in gold. Um, but realistically, I think it's more of like, man, personally, I think you should take your crew on the sole fact that it's like, man, my boss cares. Like, man, my boss wants us
Mm-hmm.
to go to training, whether or not the classes that are selected or presented are of like, you know, awesome material. Because there's always going to be classes where you're like, oh, I learned something. Some classes are not going to be as good. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the nature of things, and some classes are going to be amazing. Um, I think that like reading into the classes and just you know following the trend of instructors.
Yeah.
You'll never see a bad JT class. You'll never see a bad shot in class.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never see a bad mana class, Perkins. Just following your trends and knowing where you're weak at, because that's also a very important part here. Like, somebody told me one time when I was complaining about a class at not Vision, another event, and he's just like, the real issue is you've out trained yourself. Like, your
Mm-hmm.
level has exceeded the training you're attending, which, I mean, I agree somewhat to a point, but ultimately, man, it's up to each and everybody that goes to be like, hey, you know what, man, I think I want to get into programming. All right, let's figure out a good introduction to programming class. Or my weak point is network diagnostics. All right, let's check this one out. I think this should be a good class. Or
Yeah.
you know, so that's where I think it makes it worth it. Now, unfortunately, man, like, as humans, like, I know of people that never went back to Vision because they just didn't go to class. They spent too much time, bullshitting or whatever, and then that's disheartening, because then it's just like, man, like, at least put in the effort to go to class and network
Right.
and talk to people. So yeah, it's tough, man. It's really really tough all around as a business owner. Like, I took my guy in 19. We went. Uh, it was it was. I don't regret anything. Like, I'm glad I took it. Is there an actual ROI? That's hard, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard. You know, we split ways a year later, so I can't. I never got to see an ROI on that. But just knowing that I took them, knowing that I was able to be like, man, like, nobody in my area offers any training, and here I am, like, taking them here, taking them there, footing them. So it
Yeah.
was it was it was a good feeling for me. I'm glad I did it, and I'd probably do it again, honestly.
Yeah. That's huge. I mean, I remember when I was a tech, when Firestone would pay for training, and they sent us out to like a week long thing in that Lincoln Tech in Nebraska. That was really cool. And yeah, you come back and you're pumped up and ready to go, and that it does boost that morale when you see that the company or the person you work for wants you to get better, even if you, like I said, even if you end up staying with them or not. It is so much better than just knowing that they don't care. It's, just
Yeah,
just keep on working. I don't want you to improve. You're definitely not going to stay at a place like that, or most people are not going to stay at a place like that. But yeah, the networking with people, that's one of the big things for me. Even if I'm not blown away by the classes, getting to see people in person, meet people I've never met in person, hanging out afterwards and having some drinks. Um, that's That's pretty cool. And just like the best of the best too. I think that's what's cool about Vision is that it kind of attracts the top quality people in this industry, and then you
Yeah.
can hang out and then just sort of absorb information
Yep.
off of everybody. That's the part I really enjoy about it more than anything.
Yeah, no, I do enjoy the experience a lot. Dinners and me making fun of people. I mean, that's usually the highlight of my of any time I attend a conference, man. But no, it's really great, man. It's also great to see the group, man. Being able to send people there, and we're hoping to be able to do more in the future. Send more people.
Yeah. You guys just gave away a Pico too the other day, right?
Yeah, actually, the gentleman is literally 40 minutes from my house.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so just unfortunately, man, we didn't it's been a while since we raffled, so we didn't really stipulate like, make sure you're present. We're gonna call you and blah blah blah. I mean, like I said, we're doing what we can, man. I mean, we're just a bunch of guys. We all have day jobs, man. I mean, we do this out of love, man. I mean, sometimes if it's not money, it's time. Like we've invested so much time and money into this from our own pockets and stuff,
Hmm.
and so yeah, so we in order to just like just show a face behind the prize, so nobody's be like, hey, who has it or whatever. We're gonna do a little video. I'm gonna go up and I'll be like, hey, here's your Pico and what's your
Nice.
name and blah blah blah. And he's a Snap-on user, so I think maybe I'll just do a little bit of hands-on with him, help him out a little
Okay.
bit, get familiarized with the tool.
No, that's cool. We've talked about it before, obviously, but I've always been a big fan of what you guys are doing with Trade by Text. And now you guys recently became like official, what is it, 401?
501c3.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was it was a it was a bitch. Like it was not fun. And again, like I said, it's not even like it was expensive. I mean, it's expensive when it's not expensive, but it's expensive when you're broke. So it's like we pitch in money and time, and we're just doing the best we can. We think this can be something major in our sinking industry because it's sinking. I mean, let's just be clear here, man. Our industry is sinking, and sometimes I say to some of the guys in these group chats, man, I think the industry is gonna have to burn down before it gets better. It's like Chicago, man. Like Chicago hadn't burned down, we'd literally be looking like Boston or New Orleans or New York City, like all cramped and all single street, one lane streets and stuff instead of having like alleys and 2 lane roads. And
Yeah.
because when the city burned down, they brought in like they just started from scratch, man. They brought in engineers from Germany and architects from Holland. Like they spared no expense, man, to rebuild this place. And you can tell even now, like it's an old ass modern city.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that. Like I feel like that's the epitome of our industry. Like it's gonna have to crash and burn before it gets any better.
What's that going to look like? I'm just trying to think of like a collapse, how that looks for people that are trying to get their car fixed and how that looks for technicians.
So every time there's a crash, right? There's also the general change of perception. So
Hmm.
like, us as technicians, or we're literally on an island, right?
Hmm.
And we're on an island and we're surrounded by shark infested waters, and each shark symbolizes something. One shark is the OEMs who hate us. One shark is the general motoring public that already doesn't trust us and really doesn't like us and really hates us when their car breaks down. And the other shark is, ourselves. We're our
Yeah.
own enemies. I mean, how many times did you say, "Man, I went to this dentist and he did a really shitty job"? Okay, crickets. You don't hear anything.
Right.
You tell it, "Hey, man, that guy ripped me off down the street." Yeah, he sure did. I would have never charged you that, even though you probably would have charged him more. But you just say it just so you can look better, right?
Hmm.
How many times have you been thrown under the bus by a shop who hates you? I know I've been thrown under the bus a whole bunch of times. All the
Yep.
time. Oh, he ripped you off. Oh, he charged you a lot. Oh, he did this. Oh, he did that. I never did that. I tell people, "Oh, do you think he ripped me off?" I go, "He charged you what he needed to charge you to stay in business. Whether it's excessive or not, I can't answer that question. I don't know his overhead. What I do know is that you, as a consumer, are responsible for your purchasing decisions. Asking the questions: what am I getting for this? Why are why is this part, you know, $300? Ask those questions. They're good questions to ask. I mean, like I ask questions like that all the time. But unfortunately, man, like we're just enemies. There's enemies everywhere. OEMs think we're dumb and they don't like us and they don't want to help us, but they're forced to by the U.S. government. So they use everything in their power to not help us. Any little loophole that they have, they will use. We're still fortunate because it could be a lot worse. But it's I'm grateful for what we do have. But yeah, man, the manufacturers don't give a flying fuck about us. And even the dealer techs too, I think, man, I don't think they care, period. I just think they want to get their crap ass cars out on the road. And what's funny is that here in Illinois, they passed a law stating that it's actually like a flat rate law, really. So now anything that's flat rate, it has to be paid at time and a half.
Really?
No, I'm sorry, not flat rate, my apologies. Warranty work. Manufacturer warranty work needs to be paid at time and a half to compensate for. But my buddy who works for GM here at a GM dealership, he's like, yeah, man, he's like, it's all great and dandy or whatever, but he's like, dude, they're gonna throw the book at us. Any little thing that they see, any little dot, T not crossed or I not dotted, bro, they're just gonna nail us to the wall. I go, yeah, man. I mean, it is what it is. But so this is what's gonna happen, right? At least I think so, right? And it's already starting. You see the cries for help. So that's the first. Oh man, we can't find nobody to work. Oh man, I'm a month booked out. Oh, I got all these customers mad because I can't find anybody to help. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like analyze yourself and analyze your situation. Would you work for you? I've always said that. Would you work for you? Like, why would I work for you? Why would I work for me? I go, what are you offering me? $25 an hour flat rate? Sorry, bro, I ain't cutting it no more, man. I mean, it's just and especially millennials. I know I'm considered a millennial, but I don't consider myself one. I'm more of like the older millennials.
How old are you?
37.
Okay, so we're about the same age. Okay.
Yeah, so I still remember getting my ass kicked. I still remember the concrete jungle gyms and the parks and seeing needles and shit everywhere and burning my ass on the stainless steel slide. So I remember having to hear my dad's whistle. If I didn't hear it, I was too far. Street lights come on, time to go home. Okay. I remember that, but I also I was there present during the advent of technology, cell phones, internet. And I share some of the millennial traits, and one of my biggest millennial traits is that I am not money motivated at all. I'm really not. I mean, I've always believed in believe in yourself, follow your path, find what you like, throw yourself at it, and then the success will come afterwards. And that is going to be the biggest problem because the older generation has that mentality still that you have a job, you should be grateful.
Yeah, even if you hate it.
Yeah, like you should. Well, what are you complaining about? Why do I need to give you a day off? I mean, yeah, you should be thankful. Like you should be thanking me that I'm giving you a job and I'm paying you to do a job. Like that type of shift needs to happen because right now there's too many older shop owners who are just squeezing their lemons until they retire. Not enough new shop owners. There's a handful of ones who are awesome. I know them personally. They're great shop owners. And there's a lot of dirtbags.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying dirtbags because they might be dishonest or whatever, but by doing things like working for cheaper, you're being dishonest to yourself. Like you're disservicing us. You're cheapening on our market. Because I get that all the time. I get people that walk into the door, man, I heard you're great, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, what's going on? And I give them 10 minutes, and I'm like, well, and I interview them. So, being in a bad neighborhood, I kind of like weed out the customers I don't want by just an interview process. This is nothing like the whole coaching and oh yeah, say yes, don't say no, bring them in. No, I don't do any of that, man. I my shop's too small. It's not. I don't manage my shop conventionally, man. I'm so unconventional, but it works for me for my situation, man. They come in and yeah, bring the car. Let's take a look. Nah, man. Look, man. I go. You did this or this and this. It's this. You get a code scan from me, man. A 5-minute code scan. And if I see like a whole bunch of modules screaming communication, or it gives me an idea, and I have my two tiers of the start. It's either my 150 or it's my 250 or it's my 350 or 450 if it's euro. Like and I stick to that, and that weeds out 70% of the people. Oh no, man, you charge and blah blah blah, and you can't just hook. No, listen, man, I'm not the shop for you, and I'm totally fine with them walking out the door. The rest of the percentage get weeded out after that. Oh, do you roll that into the bill? No, it's a separate charge. You know, like it covers my time, because what if you need a module on your BMW and it's $3,000, blah blah blah. So you see what I'm saying? Exactly. So I need to cover my time, and that's time that I invest in, whether you fix it or not. So that needs to get covered. I get rid of some people that way, and then the ones that are okay with all of that but are too impatient, I tell them, yeah, man, I'm booked out for a week. Can you bring it by, on this date? So if they come back, those are my A1, and they're amazing customers. They're patient. They're willing to wait because they want their vehicle fixed correctly.
Yeah.
So usually that's kind of how I navigate my area, and it's worked out pretty well. It's a little bit of a waste of time because you have to answer the phone, and you can't be rude. You got to be polite. You're still a shop owner. It's not their fault, but I don't want to or have the time to train my customers anymore. It's just not within my field of what I want to do, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's I can only imagine an exhausting process to even attempt to do something like that.
I got so burned out. That's one of the reasons why I closed the shop, was because I literally timed myself one day. Every time somebody came in or every time I got the phone, I started my stopwatch. 4 hours every day talking to people and basically listening to this nonsense. And it's not nonsense because it's like they don't know any better, because that's what they're conditioned to. They walk up to, I go to some of these shops and people drive up, and it's just like they flock out there. They just run out there with a scan tool, and they scan it and be like, oh yeah, you need an oil pressure sensor, man. Just come by tomorrow, and it's go buy the part and bring it, and we'll install it for you. Like, it's all wrong, man. And the sad part is, the sad and beautiful part is that I was like that too, because I didn't know any better, man. Even after UTI, I didn't know any better. I just thought that's how it was. And this is, people that are listening to this like, what the hell are you talking about, shop owner? This is a chat about vision. But no, my point is that I opened my eyes in 2017 when I went to vision. Vision for me is like, even though, like I said, I always say I don't want to go because of not because of what I spend, but because of what I stopped making. But man, I owe Vision a lot. John Thornton convinced me to go to Vision because it's funny because I say this a lot, but people don't believe me. I'm very shy. Like, I have a lot of social anxiety. I don't like crowds. I don't like being in a place by myself, and I don't know anybody. I hate it. So I went to Vision I drove myself there. I went there by myself. I didn't know jack shit. And I ended up meeting Paul Danner there, a friend, Christopher, who I see every year at Vision, and we hang out. He's an awesome guy. He has a shop out in Amarillo, Texas. It was such an amazing experience and such a welcoming experience for me that it changed my career. Like, I was able to see, like, hey man, there's other ways of making money. Not all money is good money. And was it rough for a while? Nah, man, change isn't easy. Change is very difficult. Right. But if it wasn't for events like Vision, man, you'll never know what you don't know. You'll never find out. You'll never find out what else is there, because if the one takeaway you can do is, like, you can talk to other shop owners and find out if coaching is for you. If that's the I have my own personal opinions on coaching, but aside from all that, like, whatever, everybody's shop is different. Not all the rules are the same. And
Right.
if that's what's gonna catapult you into being able to pay your guys better and having a better life for you, then hey man, so be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is 100% accurate. Is the things that you learn about what you could be doing or what you're doing wrong, or maybe even what you're doing right, but by talking to other people, you're never going to figure that out unless you get out there with the other professionals, and seeing, there are different ways to do this. There are different ways to approach this, or I'm not charging enough for what I'm doing. I'm not valuing enough the services that I'm providing, because I'm very guilty of that. And just whether it be in Vision or Facebook groups or chat groups or whatever, just getting to talk to everybody else, it's been so huge for me to improve what I'm doing based on what other people can show me and share with me. That's where the value lies, where it's hard to put a price tag on it. But man, it's 100% changed my perspective when I'm doing the business side of things for me. But, I can also offer that to my students too when I'm teaching. It's like, hey, you guys value yourself. Like, don't let people, or don't let the places you work for devalue what you do, because especially right now, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to pay you correctly or compensate you correctly one way or another. Don't devalue yourself. Cause I was the same way. I worked at a shop where we did free diagnostics if you did the repair. Mm-hmm. That was our thing. And like you said, I was young. I thought that's just how it was, because once again, plugging in a scan tool and pulling codes was the majority of our diagnosis. So,
well, I mean, here's the funny part about me, man. Like, one of the things that it spreads, integrity spreads. Like, also you doing business, people look at you, other shop owners look at you, and they tell me like, man, you don't stress about anything. I go, I've learned how to cover my bases. I learned how to talk to customers. I go, I don't argue. Like, I don't have these, because like I said, I'm in the hood, man. So people come in like rowdy, ready to fight, and I work on some really shady people's cars, but I've never had an issue with them, because it's like you have to learn how to adapt to your area. There's gonna be problems no matter where you are. I have money problems in my area. There's people who don't have money problems, but they have snooty people. Oh, you didn't put my seat back where it was. You didn't put a cover on it. Oh, there's a smudge on my like the whole polar opposite. Like, yeah, I just dropped $5,000, but why is my seat not back? Well, lady, I am 6'10", 400 pounds. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, stick my head out the window and just like what? So going back to it, like that whole love and stuff. I perfect example. And I really hate sounding like this, but I'm just gonna say it. A lot of Hispanics, my people that I deal with, shops that I deal with, majority of my customers in terms of shops are Hispanics. Not second generation or born here. They're from, wherever they're from, Mexico, Central America, South America. Mm-hmm. And I always observe them, man. It's really funny. And I call it the marketplace mentality. And I think it's from, where we're from. Like, it's always negotiation. It's always, you do the work cheaper because you'll get more work, and more work equals more money. Because that's the marketplace mentality, right? Well, you buy 20 avocados, and you can sell them you buy them for $1 and you sell them for $2, and you make X amount of money. But if you buy them for $1 and you sell them for $1.50, but you buy 40 of them, you're going to sell them faster because you're selling them for $1.50. I go, but what a lot of people don't realize is that we're not selling avocados here, man. This is a trade. This is a profession. This is a skill set that's acquired with time and effort. And I have an amazing transmission guy. I know those two words never go back together, but this is this guy is probably one of the sharpest transmission rebuilders I ever seen. He's very, very fast, very efficient. Matter of fact, I farm out work to him when I have a transmission job.
Okay.
And when he first rented a shop, we were having a conversation, and it's just a general conversation about pricing. He's like, man, I don't know how much. He was kind of gloating. He's like, man, I don't know why these shops charge so much for a transmission. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, the guy next here, he charges like $700-800 or something. I'm like, dude, I charge full. Depending on the year, it's even like my labor rates in my area are vary from $60 to $100 an hour. I'm at 125 at the time because I just don't want to do it. My shop's too small. It's just not feasible for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like heavy duty repair was never feasible for me, and I never wanted to do it. So I chased it away. And I told him, dude, I charge X amount. He's just like, why? Why would you do that? I go, why wouldn't I do that? He's like, but they're gonna say no. I said, how do you know that? It's not your money. And he's like, he's like, but I don't understand. I said, I know you understand, because this is how you this is what you know. I go, but
Mm-hmm.
let me give you a scenario, right? He had a Corolla in there. How much you charge to do that transmission? He's like, oh man, I can get that transmission done. And no. I don't care how long it's gonna take you. How much? He's like, for this one, I'll charge 350. Drop it down, put it up. I said, okay. You get 3 phone calls, right? For 3 of these at 350. He was like, yeah. He's like, okay, so that's 1,050.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, okay. Why don't you charge $500? He's like, what if they say no? I go, okay, yeah, I mean, probably. But what if 2 of them say yes and 1 says no? He's like, you just did 2 jobs for the price of 3, and all
Mm-hmm.
you went up was a couple $100. And he's like, he started thinking. He's like, man, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Just food for thought. I do his programming, man. Fast forward now, the guy rents a beautiful shop, has employees, and tells me all the
Nice.
time. He's like, man, dude. He's like, not for nothing, man, but I'll never forget what you told me. And I'm just like, and it was out of the blue, because I mean, like, I've seen him prosper over the years, And then he
Yeah.
would tell me, he's like, man, like, I had to raise my prices, man, because I'm just too busy. I said, yeah, that's what you should do, because there's only one of you, and there's only so much work you're gonna do. So why not maximize your money, what you can do? Because at the end of the day, I go, yeah, they might not tell you the job now, but dude, you're so good at it that people are gonna come back
Mm-hmm.
because you're good at what you do. Like like literally, man, all the transmissions he's rebuilt maybe like 30 or 40 transmissions for me, dude. I've never had one issue with him. And so what I'm kind of saying is, like, we just don't know. And
Yeah.
the fact that I was able to help somebody grow themselves and as a business by showing them, like, hey man, there's another way of doing this, is a side effect of vision.
Well, yeah, I was just actually going to ask that mindset that you're describing to him. Is that some of the things you picked up from meeting people in vision, or did you get that somewhere else along the way? 'Cause that's a really good perspective to take in this field.
It came from meeting people at Vision, going to training events. I don't like talking money when I go to classes, but I hear people,
Mm-hmm.
and even sometimes, like, so in the ASOC, like in the shop owners group, there's a lot of stuff I don't agree with, and I never will, and that's fine. I mean, we're not always going to agree on stuff, but there's been few people. There's a select few people in there that I ask for business advice. I go, and again, like, I had a friend tell me one time, she's like, everybody's going to talk to you, everybody's going to give you advice. It's up to you as a person to pick what you like about their advice and leave behind the bad stuff you don't like about their advice, and then just grow with it. So I've always, like, I'm always a listener. I'm a jackass, I know. Sorry, I can't help it. But, like, I'm very observant, and I'm a pretty good listener, and I take all those experiences and talking to other people and being like, yeah, no, man, I'm 100. Like, I remember this specifically clear. I wish I remember the gentleman's name, but he's just like, he was a gentleman from Nebraska, one of the first persons that I talked to at Vision, and I never seen him again. He was just like, yeah, man, no, we're at 175. I'm like, what the hell, 175? How? And you're in freaking Nebraska. He's like, dude, we have a month's worth of work, man. I can't, I can't catch up for the life of me, man. He's like, I have a decent sized crew, but now my shop's too small, and I'm like, so, and I started thinking about it. How is it? How is it? How? And it started coming from that. Um, also one of the things that I've learned is like me, Tommy, for example, and this was even from my days of doing wrenching for cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I remember specifically, um, I hated doing it because I knew it was too. I knew deep down I knew it was cheap, but then I was just like, "What's a pad slab? What's this? What's that? You know, who cares? It's
Yeah.
still money, right?"
Uh-huh.
But what I loved doing was diag because I commanded my price because I knew I was going to figure it out, and whatever price I had to tell them because they didn't really have a choice. I had them by the balls per se.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I focused on that, and that's how that got me today because that's at least for one thing I've always had. I've never budged on my diag prices ever. I may be able to help people on parts prices, or maybe like depending on what it was, I would help them out before before I learned about AROs and parts matrices and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when it came to my diag or what I charged, nah, man, I never budged on that one, never, because I knew I had you. I knew you didn't have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So many people can throw in a wheel bearing, and some people can do it faster than others, but a lot of people can do it. And the diagnostic, figuring out the problems, it's not the same.
And another thing I learned at Vision a couple years, like a year or so after that, was a great analogy, man. It was a food analogy. And not I'll bring my steak to the steakhouse and blah blah blah, see if they'll cook it. No, no. It was more like you're gonna have people who want McDonald's and you're gonna want people who want a piece of steak. I go, who do you want as a customer?
Right.
And it's true. It's just like, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, you can find it cheaper. I mean, go right ahead. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to stop what I'm doing because I'm afraid of losing you. You may find somebody who's doing cheaper, but I have people who want to pay me what I'm worth. So it's just you're not gonna win them all, man. And letting go of that fear is probably the most important part because I have shops that swear up and down they can't afford a service information, they can't afford a diet guy, but yet they're under quote jobs, they do this and they do that, and I'm looking at them like, dude, like I had a guy one time, and I've said this on Facebook. I'm notorious for saying this: service information. Which one's the best one? All of them.
Yeah. All of them. Yeah.
Oh no, but if you can have to pick one, which one would it be? All right, next month pick which utility bill you're gonna pay. You want to pay the gas? You want to pay your mortgage? Or you want to pay the light? Oh, I can't do that. Same thing, homie. Now
Right.
pick your vehicles. I mean, I specifically feel that part of going back to our crash and burn philosophy for the industry is out of the ruins of all that, specializing needs to happen.
Yep.
Specializing needs to happen because now you can buy the specialty tools for your vehicle and then you have all the information at your fingertips. That's our problem here. I had a perfect example was a gentleman who was stuck on using bootleg service information, and he was like, how can you, I mean, I know you're expensive, but man, that's a lot of money to be spending on information. I have information and blah blah blah. I'm like, do you book hours? Do you book by job? Do you sell the jobs like oh, it's $500 or whatever, or do you actually go by the hours? He's like, no, I look up the hours and my service information. I go, bro, I bet you anything, man, if it's outdated. I go, the numbers are outdated too, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up, and then one job will actually pay for that itself.
Right.
So I mean, it was just food for thought. But the reality is, specializing is gonna be key to everything. And I tell this to shops all the time. Like I go to some of these shops and it's always the same thing. Oh, that's too much. Is it your car? No. Well, what's the problem? They're gonna say
Right.
no. Then they pay you for your time and then get out your shop.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how to do this? No. So then what's the problem? And I'll tell them that. What's the problem? No, but that's bad customer service. No, it's good customer service. You're telling them, listen, man, this is beyond my scope of expertise here. I go, when's the last time you asked your roofer to paint your floor, paint the wall? You don't do that, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I've used that same analogy with somebody recently. It's like you don't call a house repairman, you call an HVAC guy or a plumber or electrician or a roofer. Everybody has their
Why
own.
do we need to know everything on the car? Why?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I remember specifically, this is somebody I I know a person who came up in like a quick repair type of specific, type of place, and
Mm,
he's been trying to get into like doing some diag and stuff like that. Cool guy. Um, but specifically, I'm just like, some people have it, man. Some people don't, and that's fine, man. I mean, it's not for
yeah.
everybody. So it's kind of like I told my it's like so I tell some of these shop owners, this is a muffler shop. Why don't you stick to what you know and do mufflers, dude? You can make a killing doing this the right way. Why are you worried about this guy's check engine light? You want to farm it out, farm it out. If not, then don't stop taking them in. You guys don't know what you're doing. Oh, but like it's just like me. I don't do mufflers. I don't know how to fucking weld, and I don't want to learn. It's not what I want to do.
Right.
I go, why do I need to learn? Why do I need to do that? I'm not gonna learn on the customer's car.
Yep.
Would you? No. All right. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. But I don't know if it's the whole hero mentality or it's just is it a fear of like the customer? Oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I think it's opposite, man. I've told people, I tell people, listen, man, I go, if it's something beyond my scope of comprehension, I'll tell them the truth. Listen, man, I'll figure it out. I need time. I need time and I need money. If you don't have either of those, take it.
Hmm.
I have long lost my pride because my pride used to be the death of me. I was so like, man, I can fix it, I can fix it, but it's not financially feasible, man.
Right.
The time I spent breaking my head on this car, and I ended up probably not even making any money off of it because I probably had to buy a tool or I had to buy a scan tool, I had to buy this and that. And you really think about it, business wise, it's a waste of time. You can't fix them all, man. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with
Exactly.
it. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with it at all.
Yeah. It's almost been like an expectation of the automotive technician. At least when I got into the field and as I was a technician, like you were just expected to know every make and model in the aftermarket and be able to work on anything that comes in. And there just was nothing else put out there. You just here's your ticket, figure it out, sort of thing.
And here's why the industry needs to crash, man. And I know it's off topic, but I feel like it's related. I had shop I went to, um, good people, but their mentality was so off, man. And it took me explaining them like, look, man, like they're like, oh, do you know? And I know people, man. I always have people. Hey, are you hiring? Or you know anybody? You know a better shop and blah blah blah. And if I like them, like if because like I said, I'm observant and I know who's good and who's not. And I'll try to find them a better home because I'm all about bettering ourselves and bettering the industry. And bro, the shop's like, yeah, like my guy's moving and we need somebody else and we pay very 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 good. I'm like, okay, like all right, man. I mean, look, man. I go. I hear that all the time, and it's never what you guys think it is.
Mhm.
So I have a couple guys that are out this way. I can send them to you. They're legit. I go, but I need to. I'm not gonna waste their time, man. What are you offering? He says like, what are your hours and what are you offering? And he's like, oh man, yeah, man. It's we're doing I think I think he told me 8 to 6, and then 9 to 3 or 9 to 2 on Saturday or something like that. And I was like, okay, what are you offering? He's like, oh man, depending on their knowledge. I said, humor me, man. Like, what are you paying? He says like, oh, between 750 to 950 a week. I'm like,
Mhm.
um, hey man, so you really think that's good? He's like, yeah, that's great. I'm like, you sure? He's like, you don't think so? I said, it's not. It's minimum wage, bro. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, bro, do the math. And I did the math for him. It was like 50 hours or something like that, or 40 something hours, over 40 something hours. You take that, you divide it by, the $800 or whatever average
Mhm.
that he was offering, and it was like $18 an hour or something like that. I'm like, dude, city of Chicago right now is $15 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah.
I go, and it's only 40 hours. I go, dude, there's a car wash down the street from my house that starting position, there's a big ass sign that says $16 an hour, and all you do is standing there and telling people to
Right.
stop and then put your car in neutral.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, and I told him, so dude, I strongly suggest you revise that number, man, because if not, you're not gonna track shit. And this guy was literally convinced that that was a great salary. Dude, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Like,
that's the reality of it, and that it's prevalent around here too.
900 bucks a week after taxes. That's what, seven?
Right.
$700? $2,800 a month? Dude, in Chicago, rent in a 2-bedroom apartment in Chicago now is $2,000, dude.
Yikes.
So then it's a chicken and the egg thing again. You're forcing people to do side work,
Mm-hmm.
but yet side work devalues the industry.
Yeah.
So who's gonna give first? It's a tough, but going back to our topic is training, learning how to better yourself, learning how to value yourself. If we all do that, we can all command better. And then by paying us more, these shop owners are either gonna have to shit or get off the pot. Either start charging accordingly or they're gonna close.
Yep.
Point blank. We're at that tipping point right now where it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to that conversation we had, I don't know, last year or something with mobile technicians and repair shops too, where, we could potentially be propping up one of those shops that's not charging anywhere near enough to the customer, or not able to pay a quality employee. We're keeping them in business.
I stopped asking how many of my customers I actually eat my fee. I think about half of my customers that call me pay for me out of pocket, and I tell them, I'm like, why are you paying for this?
Right.
Why? And sometimes it's like, oh no, man, we messed up. We told them it was this, so now I gotta make it right. Okay, I can respect that. You're trying to make it right. Okay, I mean that's awesome. And some other people are just like, well, we gotta fix it now. We're already in it because we already did this, through the kitchen sink at it.
Yeah, they're already behind with the customer before they even get you in the door, and so they're not calling to get more money from them.
Have any of your customers ever made you talk to their customers, like any of your shops, or in such a bad situation where they just begged you to talk to their customer? You ever been in that situation?
Yeah, there's been a couple times. There's one shop I go to. It's a Vietnamese guy, and I think that's honestly there's some language barriers and stuff like that. So I've helped him out there if I'm talking to somebody, and the other problem is too, this is one of those shops where I can be explaining something like technical, and them as a technician or as a shop owner, they don't understand what I'm talking about. Language barrier or not, they're not even at that level to understand the details of it. And so how are they going to try and sell that to a customer when they don't even understand it? But I try to actively avoid dealing one-on-one with a customer. I've really enjoyed just dealing with shops as a mobile tech. That is one thing.
I have a explicit rule: do not give my number to customers.
Oh yeah, no, do not give my number out.
If you don't want to farm it out, then don't. I don't care. Do not give and I tell them the truth. I'm like, because I've had to stop a few of them. Like, listen, man, I appreciate the referrals. Please do not give my number out. If you don't want to take them on, I go give them the number to the shop. Don't give out my personal cell phone number and blah blah blah. It's some people just they do it out of a good heart and intent. Because they like you or whatever. But I had this shop who calls me. This guy was such in the woods with this car, man, and it ended up being a shit show car, and the lady was just frustrated. And I don't know, he called me in a good mood, man, because I don't talk to customers at all. He's like, hey, man, can you talk to her, man? And blah, blah, blah. Like, look, dude, I don't talk to customers, man. This is your problem, dude. This is your department. If I want to talk to customers, man, I'll open up my shop and stay there. He's like, man, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to tell her. She's pissed and blah, blah, blah. All right, screw it. I need some practice anyway. I'm a little rusty. Hey, ma'am, this is Tommy, blah, 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 San Jose, whatever. I got called in to look at your vehicle. You have any concerns or any questions? She's just like, okay. Let her finish talking. And she let it all out. She took it to a shop across the street. The shop actually closed down, but she took it for a check engine light, and the car stopped starting while it was at that shop for a month. and at the same time, there were some legal issues. The shop shut down, and she had to fight to get her car out of there.
Huh.
Pushed it across the street to the shop where I know, and he tried fixing it. He couldn't figure it out, and he called me in, and now I'm talking to her, and he's just like, listen. So I told her, like, listen, I go, it's an unfortunate situation that you're in, and I understand what's going on. I go, but unfortunately, I can't help you with any of that. The only thing I can do is help you with your vehicle now. She's like, but I just don't understand. Listen, man, I don't understand either. But what I do know is that this is a communication failure. And I started explaining to her the communication failures are involved in talking to the modules and blah, 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 whatever. And I go, it's time and effort to find this. And that's why he called me in. See, you're at the right place because this is beyond his scope of abilities. So that's why he calls me to come fix them for him. So you're going to get an accurate diagnosis and we're going to get your car on the road. But how much is it going to be? Listen, man, unfortunately, anybody who can actually tell you that is lying to you. I go, step one is the diagnostic. And the reason why it's so much is because it's going to take us a few hours. The time needs to be compensated for. I go, sorry about what happened. I go, but I don't know what happened, but we're going to find out. But it's $250 to check this out. But you don't know. I'm like, ma'am, you either fix it or you don't. I mean, I don't normally talk to customers, but I understand your position. I understand where you're coming from. I go, but at the end of the day, it's the choice is simple. Either you want to fix it or I can just leave. It doesn't matter to me. But you're gonna get me. Listen, you're gonna get a result from me. I go, but I just don't know what that's gonna be. She's like, okay, I'm comfortable with that. Thank you. And that's it. I mean, like some people just want their shit fixed, man. Like, like point blank. They want their shit fixed, and some of these places they're not capable of doing it.
Right.
You know. So, I don't know if you have the same type of market up by you, or how's the income where you're at? Is it middle or higher income?
So I'm kind of in a weird spot because I'm about half hour north of the Twin Cities. I'm kind of out in the sticks, and so around here the income level is relatively low compared to if you go into the cities. And I do have some shops in the cities, and so the clientele changes dramatically. Like up here, it's all Chevy trucks and Dodge trucks, and the people that make the money around here are, blue collar workers and farmers and stuff like that. And they don't care, like, here, fix my 6L80. It doesn't matter. But then you have the rust buckets and the trailer parks and stuff like that. So you get some of that. And then I go down to the cities and there's definitely more money, but then there's the sort of things that you're talking about too, where there's lower income areas. And I know a couple of the Vietnamese shops that I go to, it's a whole family. I got connected with one shop owner, and there's probably about 10 shops, and they're all related one way or another, cousins or brothers or dad or whatever. And so I go to all of these shops, and a couple of them are definitely in those areas where it's, a lower income brackets, and they're racing to the bottom with their prices, just like you were talking about, undercutting everybody else, trying to do it as cheap as possible. We'll just slap some pads on there, that sort of stuff. And so I see that. But yeah, it's, that specialization thing you were talking about. I really do believe that's the way that everything's going to go eventually. Once these ADAS vehicles hit the aftermarket in a way where everything has it. I mean, it's getting close to that anyways, but I mean, once that stuff's 15 years old, and is out on the road on everything, and then there's other things on top of it, there's so many systems. You take a 2021 vehicle and all the technology and systems on something, it's going to be overwhelming for any one person or one shop to try to take it all on. I don't know how it's even going to be possible. You're going to have people that specialize in certain areas, and that's just the way it's going to have to be eventually.
I mean, it has to happen, man. There's just no way around it. It has to happen. And then, but there's a wild card here, man. And it's just, to me, the wild card is going to be, now, will you or will you not be even able to afford a car? Dude. Escalades have always been expensive, for sure. I mean, but dude, Did you ever imagine a car was going to cost 120K?
It's insane.
It's disgusting. For a GM, like,
yeah, right.
yeah, it's a
for
Cadillac, but it's a fucking GM. Like
for
what the
for
fuck
any
happened?
depreciating asset, or it's I've seen some vehicle commercials, and I've always been on the cheap side for my vehicles. Obviously, I'm a mechanic. I can fix them, right? I'll buy that $2,000 Ford truck. But the people will pay close to $100,000 for a vehicle. I'm like, what is happening here? But yeah, it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be the situation where the healthcare system is right now, where you almost have to have something like health insurance, or some sort of warranty in order to purchase a vehicle, because you're not going to be able, or like the average person is not going to be able to afford to repair their vehicle.
You can't. I mean, I know people who lease cars because they're such budgeters. Like, yeah, man, I can't. It's not that I don't have the money. They're people that just budget. They like knowing that each month it's going to cost them $300 for transportation, and that's it. And every few years they just get another car, and they don't have to worry about anything else. And it makes sense, But not everybody thinks that way,
right?
Like me personally, man. Like I feel that once, aside from specializing, people really need to start opening their eyes in these vehicles that they're purchasing, man. They're not easy to work on. And the sooner they realize it, the sooner they're gonna be better off. And especially, and if you look at the shift in how manufacturing is, I mean, Toyota, Honda's, I mean, they're still great cars, but they're the shell of what they used to be, man.
Right.
I mean, shit. Just look at how many recalls there are now. Like, it's pretty sad, man. And cars are just literally becoming disposable, man. 6 years. Like, look at perfect example, Chevy Malibu 2.5. How many of those have you diagnosed yet with bad PCV valves? Have you diagnosed any of those yet?
On the 2.5s, I have not run into that yet.
Dude, I quoted a job. Bro, that job was like $2,700 for a fucking valve cover on a fucking Malibu.
Jeez.
In 5 years, that thing's gonna be worth $2,500, man. Like,
right.
It's disgusting. It's 7.5 hours, bro, to do that valve cover on that.
Yeah.
No, is it a 2.5 or the 1.5? I think it's a 1.5. I don't remember, dude. I know there's a GM that they're notorious for PCV valves. It's a newer one of their newer engine designs.
Okay.
And the valve cover is relatively inexpensive, but you have to remove the GDI injectors. It calls for 7.5 hours.
Wow. That's nuts. One of the ones that everybody probably knows about that really kind of drove it home for me that vehicles are just garbage is the 3.6 and the GM. I mean, you could say Chrysler too, but the timing chains and stuff in those GMs, and they're so popular. They're in everything out there right now. And now all of a sudden everybody's got a, $3,000, $4,000 bill to do chains and a water pump and all this stuff.
Well, to be fair, on the 3.6, the GM 3.6, it's going to sound pretty shitty. I don't think it's that bad of an engine, man. I think the issue is the GM and their extended oil changes, man.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Do the math. The engine burns oil. It's just, it's engineered to, I mean, the engineering, for whatever the fuck reason they decided they wanted to burn oil, they burn oil, right?
Yeah. Whether
it's a defect or just whatever for intents and purposes, right? But if you do the math, like, they burn oil about, I think the manufacturer spec is like 1,200 miles per quart, something like that.
Before they'll do anything about it, yeah.
So do the math, right? Like, it's 1,200 miles a quart, 5,000 mile service interval. All right, so by the time you need an oil change, you already need like what, 4 quart? You're 4 quarts low.
Yep.
How many oil changes? How many people have been, a month or two, extended oil change?
No, I've always believed that about the oil change monitors, or even just the recommendations by manufacturers have been way too long. But GM was so bad about that. I think that killed a lot of the Ecotech engines too. But But I mean, you go back and you look at like a GM 38 or 350 or something like that, and they're just bulletproof and reasonable to work on too. Not that you can't work on a 3.6, but again, like you didn't see a bunch of, Pontiacs and Buicks sedans going in for $4,000 bills on a regular basis.
No, man,
right?
it's and I think that's for all intents and purposes, man. I think that's the point, dude, because they don't make money off of parts, man. They make money selling cars, and you figure 80. They say there was a survey, right, and I think it was like a high ass number, man. Something like 1 out of every 4 Americans does not have $2,000 in their bank account right now.
Yikes.
That's 25% of the population, bro. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, most of these people will be like, well, I'm going to take $4,000. I'd rather just trade it in and put $4,000 towards a new car and, buy another piece of shit. I had a lady who bought she had a beautiful Explorer, 4.6 Explorer. The trans went out. Yeah. She had paid it off years ago. It was in great condition. And, those transmissions, are fairly not that expensive to rebuild. Like, I mean, even in the city or like even the good rebuilders, let's say it's $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
I go, that car was totally worth investing $3,000 into it. It was a good year. It was clean. She had just did new tires. What did she do? She went and she traded in for a fucking Acadia.
Oh, no.
Not even an Acadia. It was a damn a Traverse. It was a base model Traverse, and she had an Eddie Bauer Explorer. I'm just man. Why? She's like, I regretted it like the next day. She's like, oh my God, I should have just fixed it. But I just figured I put the $3,000 towards a new car.
Yeah. I had a couple friends of mine that bought an '09 Traverse years ago, and I'm good friends with these people, and I have no problem shooting somebody a text back. If they're like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'll give them my opinion. And I would have been like, no, stay away. Don't buy that. And they did. And of course, I think they put an engine and a transmission in it, and then they finally sold it. Actually, I got a Ford Escape in my driveway right now that I was looking at for another good friend of mine. It's a 13, so it's got that 1.6 turbo or 1.5 turbo or whatever it is.
Okay.
And the block cracks between the cylinders. And so they still owe $9,000 on it, and it needs an engine. And that sucks. That's a sucky spot to be in, because
it doesn't, and the worst part is like, and this is how we get a bad reputation, right? Because you bring that car to me and it's getting either a remanufactured engine from a reputable company, or I'm doing it by the book. And the book, like Ford says, do not repair this. Replace the block. So now you're doing block, you're doing the timing belt, blah 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 blah. You're in this junk $5,000 or $6,000, right?
Yep.
To do this job properly. So then she goes to Joe Schmo's auto repair. Oh, that's just a head gasket. Let's put a head gasket in it. Charges her $1,500, $1,800 for a freaking head gasket, and 3 months later, it's puking coolant on the side of the road, and now she's mad because Buddy, got her for $1,500 and didn't do anything. But yet I was the ripoff because I was charging her $6,000 and he charged her $1,500. So now she's just plain mad when she should be mad at buying that piece of shit to begin with. Like, I didn't build this thing. I didn't manufacture this hunk of junk. Like, why are you mad at me?
Yeah,
I didn't tell you to buy this junk. So that's kind of like my other situation. I don't band-aid anything. Like, when it comes to the Acadias, man, I rarely do any chains because to me it's a chain reaction. I'm not gonna charge you $3,000, $4,000 for some chains, and yet I pull your oil pan and the sender's full of crap. Nah, you need an engine. Like, so that's why I tell my customers, like, you're gonna authorize me to tear it down. You're gonna authorize me to pull the oil pan, and I'm gonna look at the sender. That's all. I do that all the time. You know how many shops I go to? Oh, we did the chains, and now it's misfiring on our own bank. Well, now. You have a broken actuator. Pull the actuator off the camshaft bed. Like, I mean, dude, it's like I don't do none of that. Like, it's either I'm not marrying a car. It's just I'd rather just walk away from it.
Yep. No, that's 100% accurate. And yeah, plenty of shops that don't that don't go that way. It's how can we pad slap this thing, get it back out on the road, and make a couple bucks?
Like, exactly. And it's just like, I don't know. Did you ever wrench on those old 3.7 or 4.7 Chrysler engines, like the
Yeah,
Liberties
yeah,
and
the ones where the
Durangos
rockers
and
would
stuff?
pop off.
Dude, I had I lost a friend one time because his mom it dropped a valve seat on his mom's. And why do they drop valve seats? Because they got overheated. I mean, that's the only reason why those engines used to drop valve seats. Um, he's like, man, I just need to sell it so I can get rid of it and blah 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 blah. You know the regular spiel. But he's a friend of mine, so I'm like, all right, man, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna. This is like I said, this is my homie. I go, all right, I'm gonna find a used head. I'll get it shaved, head gasket. But dude, you need to sell this thing. 3 months later, he still had it. And guess what? I go, on the opposite bank, camshaft broke.
Oh, no.
He goes like, hey man, it's doing the same thing again. I'm like, all right, why didn't you sell it? Because I specifically told him, dude, I'm doing this Band-Aid because you're my friend. And I have absolutely no warranty. I didn't even
Hmm.
charge him that much. It was because I really didn't want to do it. But like I said, I'm trying to help him out. Well, anyway,
Hmm.
you know how that goes, man. Now
Yep.
he tows it back to me. Camshaft broke on the opposite bank. I'm like, all right, bro, you need an engine. He's like, well, you just did all that work to it. I said, yeah, and I told you you needed an engine from the beginning, and you say you're gonna sell it. Yeah, but I didn't think it was gonna be that fast. I told you to immediately sell it. It's like, what part of that didn't you understand? He's like, well, you need to do something. I said, I don't gotta do anything, dude. I go, I'm not fit. I mean, dude, you need an engine.
Yep.
I go, you want to drop an engine in it? I'll drop an engine in it. Well, how much is that going to cost me? I don't know, about 5 or 6K. And yeah, bro, like he was adamant that I had to fix it, and I was like, no, and never talked to me again. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what? That's what I get.
Yeah. No good deed goes unpunished, I think they say.
So after that, I don't care if it's my mom, dude. I'm like, if I touch it, it's gonna get fixed the right way. And I've always been the Grim Reaper in my. I've always been the Grim Reaper in my neighborhood, dude. Especially when it comes to like rotted brake lines or any like Mickey Mouse jobs. Nah, man, you need an engine. You know
Uh-huh.
how many Ford F-150s I condemned to death, and yet they take it to another shop, and then I had one guy bring it to me, pay me to diagnose it, and I just do the oil pressure test, man, on
Uh-huh.
the 3 valve 5.4s. First
Yep.
thing I do, I don't care
Yep.
what the codes are or whatever. If it doesn't pass my oil pressure test, dude, it needs an engine,
Hmm.
and they never do. And he's just like, oh, there's anything you do? No, man, it needs an engine, bro. Oh, but I read it online. You can lock the. Nope, needs an engine. I'm not doing it. Needs an engine. I mean, what do you want me to tell you, dude?
Yeah.
And he took it to a machine shop buddy that I know. He put chains in it and actuators or whatever, and bro, they fought this car for a month, dude. They paid me to go out there, and I go, bro, you need an engine. Oh, but I just didn't do it. It needs an engine, dude. It has oiling issues, man.
Yeah.
It has oiling issues. You know what? I actually ended up like the guy towed it back to my shop and had me like look at it because he swore up and down that the engine was good, that they checked it, that it had to be electrical. I
Okay.
go, dude, you need an engine, man. I'm saving you my diag fee. You need an engine. Oh, he said he just fixed it and he rebuilt it and blah blah blah. Bro, I relative compression, man. I have a couple dead cylinders. I said I just pulled a valve cover just to pull it, dude. That broken camshaft. It's sheared.
Yep.
It's sheared. I'm like, I send them pictures. I'm like, there's your reman engine, dude. Get this thing out of my shop, man. So yeah, it's that's my problem. Like, there's just too many of us that don't know any better that actually trying to help these customers. Which
Yeah, yeah. It's done in good faith a lot of the times, or there's good intentions to it by a lot of people, myself included. I've done the same thing, but it almost always, not every single time, but almost always ends up biting you or the
always,
person that
dude,
owns a vehicle at some point or
always.
another.
Yeah, I just flat out refuse to shortcut anything or do anything like that. Just so I don't have to have those experiences and conversations that I really hate.
Yeah, I think it for me. It was just I had that famine mindset when I was
That's a great way of putting it.
yeah, when I was first starting out and I had no money, you know, I'm just a kid and I'm trying to do the same thing to my stuff as just band-aid it. And then when I could do that for somebody else and save them money, I felt good about it. And I was like, oh, I'm helping them, you know, in the same way that I'm trying to help myself. But you have to switch. You got to switch your mindset, especially if you want to be successful, like you were talking about, going back to what you were saying, and you know, charging correctly, and that just makes you better in the long run. You know, you're going to be more successful, like your transmission guy, and move to a better shop if you start charging appropriately and have a different mindset about it. So that's really good advice for anybody that's listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, taking what you know, shop owners out there, man, I think it's a great way of also showing your technicians that there's more, there's, you know, more of us out there that actually care. Because, you know, if you're there, you care. I don't care what anybody says. If you go to Vision, either you or somebody cared. Either your boss cared, you cared, whether you went on your own dime or not. But it's a great event. Like I said, you know, I have a couple of issues with some of the labeling in classes, but you know, I'm hoping that as the years progress and, you know, we get more vocal about stuff like that, things can change for the better, man. Because it's all we got, man. It's just a whole debate with ASCs, man. Like I have my quarrels with them, man, but we have them. Let's cherish and enforce what we do have, and take some pride in what we have.
For sure, man. Well, cool. We just did an hour and a half.
Oh, really? Shit.
Yeah.
They're gonna be tired of hearing us anyway.
No,
or hearing me.
No, honestly, some of that stuff I need to hear too. Just on the business side of things, it's good for me to get that reinforced. Honestly, I should go raise my prices.
I mean, dude, I it's just what if somebody says our commodity. We all have businesses about commodities, right? So we don't have a commodity, right? But we do. Our commodity is our time. You don't have time. I can go buy avocados again. I can't buy time again. So I need to maximize my 8 hours. And especially for diag, dude, like I got tired of doing mobile diag because I was always I'm in this dump ass shop and the doors don't open and I'm fat as shit trying to get them to move this car. I had one shop couldn't find the car. Cause we're in the city, and I guess the owner parked it somewhere. I show up, he wasn't there. I tell him, hey man, I called you guys half an hour ago to get this car ready, because they had that habit of doing it, and I spent another half an hour waiting there for the car. I just dipped. I took off. And the shop owner called me. He's like, hey, what happened? I said, your employees didn't tell you? I showed up. I was there for half an hour. They couldn't find the fucking car. Oh, my God, blah, blah, blah. And then it was a little pattern until I finally said, listen, man, I go, we're going to do this. I go, if you're not at the shop, I'm not showing up. And it's fucking sad, man. Like, you have so many cars that you have to park them on the street. Like, with me, at least with me, I don't keep that many cars, but I don't have parking. But he had he fit like at least 12 cars in his lot. And some of them, they've been there for years, and you're parking shit on the street. Like come on, man. Like, time. Like I said, that's my pet peeve. Time. Like, how do I make as much money as possible during this time frame? And programming is the best use of our time. It's just not fun. It's not fun for me. I don't know about you. I like chasing the rabbit.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, if everything goes smoothly and there's no issues, I mean, it's good that there's no issues, but it's not fun. It's after you've done 100 GM programming.
Yeah. It's like
okay, press the button.
It's just, it's fun because I'm in and out, and, I make $150, for pushing some buttons. Easy. It's easy money, but it's not fun. But then if I control the environment in which I'm in, and I have all my tools and everything's in my shop organized, and I know where I can fit you or where am I going to do this job, I'm in control of my diagnostic, and that's been a game changer for me. And people still send me cars. I'm like, he's like, oh, you got to, and I've never told anybody I'm not going to you. I tell them, listen, man, I go, If you want this quickly, send it over.
Mm-hmm.
If you got time, I can be there next week. Oh, next week, dude, I'm so busy, man.
Yep.
They don't know I'm lying to them, so it's up to them. I leave it into their hands. They want to send it or they don't.
Yeah, it sounds like the way to do it. I don't have a shop though, so I'll just keep going to the shitty ass shops that have no room, and I'm tripping over transmissions.
What are you talking? What are you charging for Diag, man?
So right now I'm at 120 for the first hour, and then I go after that. I'll talk to them and see where we're at.
Man, I'm at 250, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
250.
So I gotta go. So I gotta
hour
go up.
and some change. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm telling you, man, you'll lose some. You're gonna lose some. I mean, I guarantee you that a couple weeks go by, they'll be back.
Okay.
They just have to change your tactics. But yeah, man, I would at least do. I mean, it's up to you, bro. I wouldn't do 180, $200, dude.
Okay.
What are you gonna get out of that? An answer.
Right.
Especially like for example, me, man. Like I'm lazy as shit. Like I see all these guys that do like the in cylinder and yeah, man, exhaust valve number 2 on the intake stroke is late, so it has to be this cam is worn down. Hey, man, you need to tear it down.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to tell you exactly what it is, or you want to tear it down and find out yourself, or you want to sell them an engine? I don't give a shit. It's not electrical. Okay, yeah, we'll sell them an engine. All right, cool. Give my money. I'm out. So it's kind of like those procedures and stuff like that. Like I try not to get too attached, and I try to like maximize my time and again like. By you charging at least like $200, it'll help you you'll feel better too. Because I know this happens to me, it happens to you. You don't you feel like, man, bro, I should be charging more for this shit. This is way too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, you start rushing, like you start like, man, how the fuck? And then you almost shotgun apart.
Sure.
You don't have to admit it, but I know you've done it.
No.
I've done it. I'll say it.
I've
sometimes I'm just like, man, fuck, I spent too much time on this shit. You know what? It's this, and if it doesn't work, then I'll spend a couple hours on it for free next time. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that. $200, $250. I'll guarantee you an hour and a half of my time, and I guarantee you an answer. If I can't give both of these, then you know what, bro? I'll walk away. You know damn well you're a very intelligent diagnostician, man. You know when in the first half an hour you're gonna get your fucking ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
That's been another key of mine too. Half an hour. I go, if I know it's going to get bad, I need it at the shop. You don't owe me anything. I'd rather spend that half an hour and lose it than lose my ass for the next 2 hours and not make shit because I don't feel comfortable enough charging somebody if I don't have an answer or a direction.
Yep.
So that's been really, really good for me.
Oh, I appreciate the advice for sure. I mean, honestly, it's that's something I got to do, and that might help out my because I've just had too much going on to trying to do the teaching and the mobile at the same time, and the mobile just keeps ramping up. So maybe charging more might even that out for me.
I will, and you'll make the same. I promise you.
Yeah, right.
And then it's going to get busy again because I'm telling you, man, it's a little roller coaster. They say, F that's too much. They're going to say no. And then, they got sitting 3, 4, 5, 6 cars they can't fix. They're like, damn it, now we got to call Sean now.
Yeah.
All right, fine. Now we know it's $200, and it helps them too because then if somebody doesn't want to spend $200 on some Diag, man, they don't want to fix their piece of shit. So then why am I as the shop owner even bothering with this? You see,
right?
It helps everybody, man. It helps them with their workload. It helps you with your workload, and then you're still gonna make the same amount of money.
Yep.
Maybe even more because now you're not stuck doing the stupid ass Diag, and you're gonna go do 2 programmings.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, you only have 8 hours. You don't right. have a shop where you can be like, hey man, you know what, man, this part didn't show up, man. Sorry, man, it'll be tomorrow. Or hey man, my tool broke or some bullshit.
Yeah.
You only have 8 hours. So what you do in those 8 hours is what's gonna make you profitable. It's not what you can sell, it's what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my problems was I was driving to these damn shops in fucking Chicago traffic. So now I minimized that, and I've been able to do more at the shop because when I have a little bit of downtime, then I do my module stuff.
Okay.
Or I do some practicing, or I do some training. So I'm always on the move, and it's been fucking great.
I'm gonna put some thought to that, so I appreciate the advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or anybody else out there,
Okay, one more big thank you to Tomi for joining me today on the show. Again, really appreciated that conversation, and it seriously got me thinking about valuing my own work and just taking a look at to see, am I charging correctly for what I'm bringing to the table? So hopefully did the same thing for you. Maybe you're already there. That's awesome. But it's a great message for everybody in this industry that's doing the work to make sure that we're being compensated correctly. So with that all out of the way, thank you for listening, but let's get out there and start fixing the world one car at a time.